Hello, good evening, everyone. Today we are going to go ahead and do a very important topic revision, which is elasticity. अब elasticity वैसे तो हम सबको पता है कि क्या होता है, but आज हम इसको पूरी डेप्थ में अच्छे से समझेंगे, अलग अलग तरीके की elasticities को रिवाइज करेंगे एंड एट द एंड हम लोग इसको एग्जाम पॉइंट ऑफ व्यू से जो भी इंपॉर्टेंट है इसमें वो सब कुछ अंडरस्टैंड करेंगे. So first thing that you have to go ahead and understand in this case is that there are three kinds of elasticities. First, price elasticity. अगर आप ये मेरे साथ रोज रिवाइज करोगे जो भी यहाँ पे है, whatever is in the one shots, it will be very, very, very helpful for your CUET entrance exam. इन्हीं में से ही क्वेश्चंस बनेंगे CUET एंट्रेंस एग्जाम में. सो प्राइस इलास्टिसिटी, इनकम इलास्टिसिटी, क्रॉस इलास्टिसिटी, ना ही सिर्फ CUET एंट्रेंस एग्जाम में, बट when we talk about UGC net economics, in that also mostly these kind of questions will only come. So these are very fixed pattern of questions, right? They're very different from other MA economics paper, right? So we have to try and see what are the different kind of elasticities. The first is called price elasticity. Please beta write down the formula of price elasticity with me. Price elasticity is nothing but it is percentage change in quantity demanded upon percentage change in price. जब हम percentage change in quantity demanded की बात करते हैं तो ये हो जाता है change in quantity demanded upon initial demand upon change in price upon initial price. हमेशा याद रखना, क्योंकि हम एक बेसिक नॉर्मल गुड की बात कर रहे हैं. That is why we will always have a negative sign with price elasticity. This negative sign just means that I am talking about a normal good which has an inverse relationship between quantity demanded and price. So there exists an inverse relationship between quantity demanded and price. So better write down this further. So this can be change in Q upon Q upon change in P upon P with a negative sign. So this can simply mean, I know most of you know this thing. ये लगेगा कि ये तो बहुत basic formulas है मैम, ये थोड़ी आएंगे एग्जाम में. But जैसे जैसे हम इस लेक्चर में प्रोग्रेस करेंगे, as we progress through this lecture, you will understand that there are a lot of things that you don't know. Although elasticity is a very basic thing, still sometimes better we make mistakes in such a basic formula, right? So the price elasticity formula is change in quantity demanded or change in Q by change in P into P by Q. अच्छा बच्चा एक और चीज देखो इसमें, we can call elasticity of demand as the responsiveness or sensitivity of quantity demanded of a good to changes in price. So how sensitive I am, कैसे कैसे quantity demanded change होती है जब price change होता है, how sensitive I am, that is called as the elasticity of demand, price elasticity of demand. Most important question, who introduced the concept of elasticity of demand? So better write down Marshall. He introduced the concept of elasticity into economic theory. We have to remember the name of the economist. As I have been highlighting, one very important aspect of this entrance exam is that they will ask you the name of the economist. So you have to remember that Marshall introduced the concept of elasticity in economic theory. Now, if I have to compare two demand curves, one is a more elastic demand curve and one is a less elastic demand curve. एक ज्यादा elastic demand curve है, एक कम elastic demand curve है, और क्वेश्चन है कि कौन सा डिमांड कर्व का स्लोप कैसा होगा, which demand curve will be flatter, which demand curve will be steeper, दोनों डिमांड कर्व्स कैसे होंगे, ये क्वेश्चन है बेटा हमारा. तो जो मोर इलास्टिक डिमांड कर्व होगा वो फ्लैट होगा, जो लेस इलास्टिक डिमांड कर्व होगा वो स्टीप होगा. So more the elasticity, flatter is the demand curve. Less the elasticity, steeper is the demand curve. क्यों बेटा? क्योंकि अगर हम यहाँ देखें तो इसमें अगर प्राइस P1 से P2 जा रहा है तो क्वांटिटी बहुत ज्यादा गिर रही है. There is a small change in price and there is more change in quantity. So this is elastic. And if we see here, this change in price causes very less change in quantity. So this is less elastic. So we have seen that the more elastic the demand curve, the flatter the demand curve will be. Right? Now, beta, we want to go ahead and we want to write down some more things here. So we are going to go ahead and we are going to talk about three more types of demand curve. One I will call as the perfectly inelastic demand curve. वो demand curve जिसमें quantity change नहीं होती. Quantity does not change as price changes. So the elasticity of such demand curve is 0 and it is a vertical demand curve. Second, elasticity of demand is 1. This is called unit elastic demand curve. In such cases, this comes in exam. Which demand curve has rectangular hyperbola? कौन सा डिमांड कर्व होगा जिसमें हमें रेक्टेंगुलर हाइपरबोला मिलेगा? So this is rectangular hyperbola. The elasticity of demand is 1. अच्छा, रेक्टेंगुलर हाइपरबोला की बेटा एक और प्रॉपर्टी है. क्या प्रॉपर्टी है? ये प्रॉपर्टी है कि इन such curves the area under the curve remains the same. ये बात याद रख लो अभी के लिए. The area under the curve remains the same. मतलब बेटा अगर मैं पॉइंट A यहां पर ले लूं और इस A पे मैं इसका एरिया निकालूं, ये if I find out the area at point A और मैं पॉइंट B यहां पर ले लूं और B पर एरिया निकालूं, if I find the area at point B, area at point A and B will be equal. In fact, you take any point, you take a point C and you make a rectangle out of it. इसका एरिया भी इन दोनों के बराबर ही आएगा. Area under this different points will be equal. बेटा एरिया क्या है इस केस में, ध्यान से बताना. एरिया इज प्राइस इनटू क्वांटिटी. ये तो प्राइस हो गया और ये क्वांटिटी हो गई. सो एरिया इज नथिंग बट प्राइस इनटू क्वांटिटी. And price into quantity is nothing but the revenue of the consumer. कितना consumer पैसा खर्च करता है, how much, और revenue की जगह एक better word हो जाएगा expenditure of the consumer. So how much consumer is spending, that is the price into quantity. ठीक है. Now I'm saying that expenditure is the same when I measure at A, C और B, the expenditure is the same. तो बेटा प्राइस तो अलग अलग है हर पॉइंट पे, फिर भी एक्सपेंडिचर सेम है. सो प्लीज राइट डाउन, इफ प्राइस चेंजेस बट एक्सपेंडिचर is the same, then the elasticity of demand is unit elastic. So in unit elastic, we have made a very, very important point that in such demand curves, we have seen that even when the price changes, the expenditure of the consumer remains the same. ओके, वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट पॉइंट, प्लीज इसको नोट डाउन कर लो अच्छे से। और इसका रीजन हमने अभी प्रूव किया, वी प्रूव्ड व्हाई दिस हैपेंस। अच्छा बेटा नेक्स्ट पॉइंट पे आओ, पॉइंट नंबर 3, elasticity of demand is infinite. So infinitely elastic demand में you have horizontal demand curve. And what does this resemble to? अगर मैं producer theory की बात करूं, it resembles with perfect competition. So this demand curve, it actually goes ahead and it resembles perfect competition. Okay, now let's go to the next part. तो बेटा अब हम बात करेंगे एक्सपेंडिचर मेथड की, बिकॉज हम एक्सपेंडिचर मेथड का एक बात कर चुके हैं ऑलरेडी. So when we talk about the expenditure method, in the expenditure method, you have to remember 3 things. Okay. The first thing that you have to do is 1. If you have elasticity of demand as 1, then total expenditure remains the same as price changes. एक एग्जाम्पल ले लेते हैं. एग्जाम्पल, price is 10, price increases to 12. When price was 10, I was purchasing 12 units. When price increased to 12, I started purchasing 10 units. What is my total expenditure? It's price into quantity. So this is 120, 120. So my total expenditure is the same when price is increasing. That means elasticity of demand is 1. Is this clear? Okay. Come to the second point. Now I am saying that if total expenditure and price move in opposite direction, they move in opposite direction, then beta we say that the elasticity of demand is greater than 1. So if total expenditure and price are moving in opposite direction, then elasticity of demand is greater than 1. Example, look. Price is 10. Price increases to 12. Quantity is, let's say 4. So expenditure is 40. Quantity changes to 2. So expenditure is 24. So price increased beta. Total expenditure decreased. They are moving in opposite direction. So elasticity of demand is greater than 1. Take the third one, please. If you have total expenditure and price moving in the same direction, moving in same direction, then elasticity of demand is less than 1. Now take a moment, write down your own example, then I will solve further. So write down your own example of elasticity less than 1, please. Okay, so beta, now let's write down the example together. So we are going to go ahead and say that price is 10, price changes to 12, quantity I was demanding 2, and I'm demanding quantity of, let's say, quantity I was demanding, let's say price changes to 20. Quantity I was demanding 2, now I am demanding half. Okay. What is my total expenditure here? Price has increased now. So price has increased. So quantity, let's say I'm demanding 3 by 2, 1.5. Okay. So 20 is my expenditure earlier, and now my expenditure is 30. So when my price increased, my total expenditure also increased. Therefore, the elasticity of demand is less than 1. I hope this is making sense to you. It's very important. Okay, beta. Now let's go ahead and let's move on to the next part. So in this, we are going to go ahead and talk about point elasticity. Please write that down. Point elasticity. This is the next type of elasticity that we have. So in point elasticity, what happens is that along a demand curve, एक ही demand curve पे, I can give elasticity at different points. So let's say that this is my demand curve. Along this demand curve, I will give elasticity at different points. So I can give elasticity here. I can give elasticity here, 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 and here. इसको नाम दे देते हैं. So maybe let's say that this is point A, B, C, D, and E. How do I calculate it? कैसे पता चलता है point elasticity क्या है? So point elasticity, please write down, is given by lower segment by upper segment. Lower segment by upper segment. तो यहाँ देखो बेटा, lower segment and upper segment are equal. I have taken them in a way such that they are equal. So at point A, my elasticity will be 1. Now look at D. Lower segment is smaller, upper segment is bigger. So I am dividing it by a bigger number. That means elasticity has to be less than 1. Look here, beta. Lower segment is 0. इसके नीचे कुछ है ही नहीं. So elasticity will be 0. Look here. Here, lower segment is this much. Upper segment is only this much. So at B, elasticity will be greater than 1. Lower segment बड़ा है, numerator बड़ा है, denominator छोटा है. And here upper segment है ही नहीं. So lower segment is every number and upper segment is 0. So anything by 0 will be infinity. So we have found out the elasticity at different points. Okay, now talk about some theorems based on elasticity. Now, when I talk about theorems based on elasticity, theorems as such theorem nahi hai, matlab naam de diya theorem ka. The first point that we have to highlight is what happens when we have different slope but same elasticity. ध्यान से समझना, बहुत important point है. Different slopes but same elasticity. तो क्या होगा इस केस में? How will I draw such curves? Now, let's say that let's show this. So let's say that I have two demand curves, right? Now, if I go ahead and I think about any point, just say for example, let's say point M. Let's say OM is the price. Here I have taken B, B, E. OM is the price beta. ठीक है? बहुत clearly समझो. Both of these are right angle triangles. एक तरीके से देखा जाए तो एक triangle मेरा जो बन रहा है, that the first triangle that I am formulating. Oh, I have to write some other alphabet here. A. The first triangle that I am formulating is triangle AOP. And second that I am formulating is BOP. Okay. Now what I'm doing is I am concerned with just one price for now, which is my M. So I'm taking price here and quantity here. ठीक है बेटा? अब क्या कर रहे हैं हम, यहां से एक लाइन ड्रॉ कर रहे हैं. तो मैंने प्राइस M से एक लाइन ड्रॉ की है दो अलग डिमांड कर्व्स पे. आई हैव गॉन अहेड एंड ड्रॉन अ लाइन फ्रॉम द प्राइस एक्सिस टू डिफरेंट डिमांड कर्व्स. बेटा यहां पर पॉइंट आ गया से पॉइंट R और यहां पॉइंट आ गया से पॉइंट S. ठीक है? इलास्टिसिटी लोअर सेगमेंट बाय अपर सेगमेंट है. ऑफ कोर्स ये तो हमने अभी पढ़ा. तो इलास्टिसिटी एट R एंड S, अगर ये इलास्टिसिटी इक्वल है, सो लोअर सेगमेंट बाय अपर सेगमेंट का इक्वल होना जरूरी है. सो लोअर सेगमेंट मतलब BR, बाय अपर सेगमेंट मतलब RP. इट हैज टू बी इक्वल टू AS बाय PS. AS लोअर सेगमेंट बाय PS अपर सेगमेंट. ये अपर सेगमेंट है. लोअर सेगमेंट एंड अपर सेगमेंट का इक्वल होना जरूरी है. ओनली देन द इलास्टिसिटी विल बी इक्वल. बट बेटा व्हाई इज द स्लोप डिफरेंट? अरे क्लियर दिख रहा है ना, ये स्टीपर है, ये फ्लैटर है. द स्लोप्स आर डिफरेंट but they have the same elasticity. So if something like this comes in exam, ऐसे ही tricky question आएंगे demand curve से. If something like this comes in exam, you should be able to answer such questions. क्या है, क्या किया हमने point method use किया, and using point method we said that look, lower segment by upper segment of the two demand curve is equal, but the slopes are not equal. एक steep है, एक flat है. Are you getting it? Even so जैसे for example कभी कभी question comes on assertion, reasoning. So suppose someone gives you a statement that two demand curves can have same elasticity but different slope, and they're asking you if this is correct or not. अरे हाँ है ना, देख तो रहे हम अभी, right? So that's the first thing. Now please understand another thing which is important. एक और स्टेटमेंट मैं आपको देती हूँ, देखते हैं ये हम क्लियर कर पाते हैं नहीं. So you have to think about this. Two parallel straight line demand curve have different elasticity. बेटा समझो, पैरेलल डिमांड कर्व या पैरेलल लाइन मतलब उनका स्लोप इक्वल है. स्लोप इक्वल होने का मतलब ये नहीं है कि उनकी इलास्टिसिटी भी इक्वल होगी. When we talk about elasticity of demand होता है dq by dt into p by q. बट स्लोप सिर्फ ये है, स्लोप है डिमांड कर्व का dq by dp, बट इलास्टिसिटी ये पूरा है. तो जब लाइंस पैरेलल हैं तो मतलब ये दोनों का इक्वल है. अगर मैं डिमांड कर्व 1 की बात करूं और डिमांड कर्व 2 की बात करूं, दिस मीन्स दैट दिस इज इक्वल फॉर बोथ ऑफ देम. dq by dp and dq by dp for demand curve 1 and 2 are equal. This does not mean, please be sure, that p naught by q naught of demand curve 1 is equal to p naught by q naught of demand curve 2. Where do I get this from? P naught by Q naught of demand curve 2. This does not mean that. So let us try to go ahead and prove this now. So in order to go ahead and prove this, it's very simple. Let us try to go ahead and let us make, let's say, these two demand curves, right? These are parallel demand curves. Very simple proof, very, very simple proof. I will draw a point M here. This is my price. This is price. Quantity. But along the first demand curve, can you tell me what is going to be the elasticity? It is going to be lower segment by upper segment. Along the second demand curve, elasticity will be lower segment by upper segment. Can you clearly see that for the second demand curve, lower segment is much smaller than the upper segment? Lower segment is much smaller. देखो ध्यान से, it's much smaller than the upper segment. So the elasticity is very different from what I see in the first case. In first case, I see that lower segment and upper segment are very equal, very close to each other. It will be very close to 1. But here, nahi, lower segment is smaller, upper segment is bigger. So elasticity is going to be less than 1. So two demand curves which have the same slope can have different elasticity. Now I leave it to you to prove that two intersecting demand curves can have different elasticities at the point they cross each other. I am leaving this up to you. You will prove this. ठीक है? ये खुद से करना है. अच्छा, one last thing that sometimes comes in exam and many students are confused is called the arc of demand curve or arc elasticity. Arc elasticity is also very simple. It is nothing but what in your childhood you would have called it as the midpoint method. है कि नहीं? Beta, what is midpoint method? क्या करता है midpoint method? Elasticity of demand is change in Q by change in P into P1 plus P2 upon Q1 plus Q. Instead of taking the initial price, you take the average price or the sum of the price. Average मान लो या sum मान लो, एक ही बात है. So you take the average price P1 plus P2 by 2 upon Q1 plus Q2 by 2, but 2 cancel out. So you're just left up with this, right? So this is known as your arc elasticity, and this is also very important, right? Okay. Now let's talk about the cross price elasticity. So when we talk about the cross price elasticity, the cross price elasticity is in substitutes, in complements. तो एक गुड के प्राइस के चेंज होने से, गुड X के प्राइस चेंज से, how is good Y's demand affected? Good X price changes, how does that affect the demand of good Y? That is cross price elasticity. So beta, if we talk about the formula, it is percentage change in quantity demanded of good X due to percentage change in quantity demanded of good, percentage change in price of good Y. So how can I write that down? It will be beta very simple. Change in QX by change in PY into PY by QX. Same as the elasticity formula. It's just that in this case, I am taking demand of good X and price of good Y. Okay. So now, can you tell me when will cross price elasticity be positive? It is positive for substitutes. क्यों? क्योंकि जब एक का प्राइस बढ़ता है तो दूसरे की डिमांड बढ़ती है. They move in the same direction. When price of tea increases, demand of coffee increases. So please make a note of this, that this is positive. When is this negative, beta? for complementary goods. So when price of sugar increases, then demand of tea decreases. They move in opposite direction. And since they move in opposite direction, therefore we can say that we have negative price elasticity. Is this clear? Negative cross price elasticity. So this is it from the cross price elasticity aspect. Now, one more thing that I would like to highlight here is called your income elasticity. Elasticity को पूरा ही खत्म करते हैं. So in income elasticity, the income elasticity is percentage change in quantity due to percentage change in income. That means change in Q upon change in Y into Y by Q, where Y is the income of the consumer. कुछ बहुत बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट पॉइंट्स हैं इससे रिलेटेड जो हमें एक बारी लिख लेने चाहिए. फर्स्ट, अगर इनकम इलास्टिसिटी ग्रेट, first let's write down, if income elasticity is positive, then we have a normal good. Yeah. But if income elasticity is negative, मतलब इनकम के बढ़ने पे डिमांड घट रही है. When income is increasing, demand is decreasing. Demand and income are moving in opposite direction. Then we have inferior good. Right? Then we have inferior good. Acha, can you think about an example where, बहुत important question है, where elasticity of income is zero? Can you think about an example where elasticity of income is zero? Quasi-linear goods. देखो example, जो हमारा utility function ऐसा बनता है ln x plus y, जिसमें ये non-linear होता है और ये linear. I have one good which is non-linear and one good which is linear. Right? Then beta, what happens in such case? In such case, the demand of x is not a function of income. So whether my income increases or decreases, I will always demand the same. Whether my income increases or decreases, I will demand the same. So change in x when income changes will be zero. So elasticity will also be zero. So this is an important example to remember when elasticity of income is zero. Okay, beta, come to the next point. If your income elasticity is more than 1, that is a luxury good. Right? And if your income elasticity is less than 1, which means वो आपकी income का declining proportion है. जैसे से income बढ़ती जाएगी ना, आप उसमें कम खर्च करोगे. These are necessity goods. So both are positive only, okay? Greater than 1 तो automatically positive हो गया, but this is also greater than 0. It's positive, right? So we have done what are substitute goods, what are complementary goods in cross price elasticity, given goods in price elasticity, inferior goods in income elasticity. ठीक है जी? तो ये हो गया हमारा elasticity से related पूरा. अब इसमें जो एक चीज और आती है एग्जाम में, one more thing that comes in exam, that is called elasticity of substitution. तो उसका एक formula है. I don't have, I'm going short of time for now. So I'm not going to do this in today's class, but as you know, we have, it's not, the topic that we have not covered in our lectures. So here only, I would like you to just think about elasticity of substitution also. And I want you to discuss what, why is elasticity of substitution infinity in substitute goods? right? And why is elasticity of substitution, when is elasticity of substitution 0? So when is it infinity and when is it 0? एक बार elasticity of substitution भी पढ़ लेना, that is also important from the exam.